trying to fill a void. And dude, I don't even know how to explain it. Like, I got in like the gambling deal stuff. I was crashing out. I was drinking. I was doing shit that I shouldn't be doing. Well, I've got a lot of explaining to do. So, if you guys are new here, I'm sure a lot of you guys watching this are probably not going to be new. That's probably why you're watching this one. But this channel, I might post part of this on my main, but this channel, The Lion's Den, which me and Caleb Drip King, my friend, brother in Christ, started turning into like a more, brotherly podcast to help spread the faith. It's funny. Well, it's not even funny, but as soon as we kind of converged together to start this crazy thing we had planned to like meet all these other content creators that were Christians and do all these podcasts, I went through a pretty life-altering experience that really deeply challenged my faith more than it ever has had, like more than I've ever been challenged in my entire 24 years of living on this earth. And I didn't know exactly how I wanted to come back to this channel because I felt honestly like I wasn't ready yet. I've still been struggling a lot with my faith, so I feel like I owe you guys a in-depth, like detailed explanation as to what kind of took place in my life the last 6 months, and brought me back. I'm back home. I'm living back home, and the first 6 months of 2024 were probably the best moments of my entire life, the happiest I probably ever was, to the second half being the most depressed I have been in my entire life, to the point where I got so close to taking my own life. And it's gonna sound like I don't know even how much I can go into detail on this, but I'm gonna go into detail on this, and then I'm gonna see how detailed when I edit it, how I'm allowed to be. If you guys know me, my name is Alex Eubank. I've been doing content creation specifically on the fitness side for about 5 years now. And I've always been known for being open about my faith and how God has helped me through times in my life where I suffered with anxiety, derealization, some depression and whatnot. And I've had suicidal thoughts at times, but due to a certain event, I got to a point where I never tried to, but I got to a point where, And part of the reason why I kind of want to make this video is because of how mental struggles are so prevalent in our society nowadays. And I just want to there's a guy in the industry, he just passed away. His name is Chris O'Donnell. He took his own life. He was an advocate for mental health. So I just want to put that out there. And you never know what someone is truly going through. And if by me making this video and being vulnerable about what I went through, whereas many of you guys who view me as someone who's got it all, young millionaire, has everything that you think that you would want, and I was in a position where I was getting to that point, maybe it might help some of you guys out knowing that you're not alone, and that this does happen, and that when you get to the point you think you want in life, like sometimes that's not really like what's going to heal you, right? So basically last year in January I started dating this girl, and I was absolutely dumb in love. We were so this for a minute that I was set on getting engaged to her that year. I had a whole trip in Italy planned out at one point. Right before the breakup, I was looking at houses in Georgia because I wanted to get one in a state that she liked, and I moved down to Orlando in Florida. That's the reason why I moved to Florida, was so I could be closer to her from Charlotte, where I was living at the time. Basically, we broke up, right? So the details of the breakup, I don't know how much I'm going to go into detail of for the privacy aspect of our relationship. But we had a few breakups in the relationship throughout the 7 months or so that we were together. And I'm like a lover boy, right? So I felt really hard. I've been in plenty of relationships before that one, but that was the one where I felt the most it was the one. If you guys know me at all in my past, all I ever talk about wanting in life is just a family. I didn't have the best family growing up, best childhood. Like, I never had the good family experience. So for me, after getting all the money and everything, what you guys could think, I've always just wanted a family. I used to have anger issues when I was younger. In fact, when I would see families on vacation and happy kids together, siblings, and I would get jealous, and it would make me upset inside because I didn't get to have that. And when I would watch these movies, like the Hallmark Christmas movie dinners and stuff like that, it would make me sad because I didn't have that. And growing up as an only child, it was hard, and I was very like isolated in a sense, and I feel like I really was just longing to fulfill, knowing that I had a second chance to have my own family. It was like that's all I wanted, and that's why I honestly worked so hard and still continue to work so hard and wanted to do so well in life, make good money on social media. It's not just for myself and my own selfish reasons, but was to provide for like a wife and for a family and for kids, and to let them live the best life they could ever imagine and not have to worry about money or anything, and give them just all the things that they ever could want. So that's what made me do that. So with this one girl that I was with, I saw it like clear as day, more so than I ever have in any other relationship. It was like all the relationships I had before this one were like here, and this one was just here. And I experienced something to me at the time that was so deep that I was like, there's no way that this isn't from God. There's no way that this isn't real, that this isn't the one. Like, I did things in that relationship like that I never have done before. I always was a lover boy. This one, like, I like went out the way. Like, I would book. I mean, I don't know what I don't know. I don't want to like get too into detail of it, but I was in love with this girl. Simple as that. And basically, we had, as any couple does, they have certain, disagreements and whatnot. But I feel like I was at a point where I could go about it pretty maturely, and I try to, for the most part, most of the time. And I'm a big believer in that. I don't think anything is too far gone ever. I think you can come back from anything, and any whatever setback you think you may have, that if you communicate it and you truly want to choose to love each other, which is the way that Jesus loved us, you know what I mean? Even when he feels like we do him wrong, he continues to show that love through us. So that's like the philosophy I always had in relationships, and that's what I carried into this. So I felt like, for me, when she, for the things of the third or fourth time she broke up with me I never broke up with her. It's like the fourth time I think she broke up with me. And I remember when she did it, and all the other times I fought back as much as I could. I tried to like save it, did anything I could. That's why part of the reason why I moved to Florida was right after one of the breakups. And I just told myself, I was like, dude, I can't fight anymore. It just got to a point. So we broke up when I was living in Florida, when we were seeing each other like all the time. I moved to where she lived and where her family lived. We broke up, and I didn't have it in me to fight it back. I immediately went up to Liberty. I went to Lynchburg, and I met up with Caleb. We ripped a podcast there that I think you guys might have seen on the. I don't know if he uploaded it or not. And I lasted a few days. I reached back out to her. We started talking again. I went back home, and her and I kind of were like a thing for like 2 weeks or so, back and forth, hanging out. It wasn't, I was trying to beg for her back, and she would come over and be like, I'd convince her to like come over, and I would like, she would say, as long as you don't like beg for me, you know what I mean? I would end up just begging and crying my heart out to her, trying to beg her to stay in my life. And what hurt me more almost, first off, the breakup kind of hit me out of nowhere, right? I did not think she was going to, I remember exactly, like, this is what fucked me up. I remember we looked at houses in Atlanta that week, and beautiful houses, and she was telling me how she could imagine like herself in the house, like in that kitchen that she liked and stuff like that. So I thought we were on like the same page with a lot of stuff. And then I remember driving home, and this is fucked up, dude. This shit gets me emotional. Not that, I just remember how happy I was, and I hit a point where I just haven't felt that feeling in a long time. And I remember we were driving home from Georgia back to Florida. And I remember being at this like Chick-fil-A with her. This is the first time I've like actually like talked it out loud. I feel like I'm having a therapy session right now. I think this is definitely, this is needed. This is good for me. So if I cry a bit, it's not that I'm crying over the fact of me remembering how happy I felt during some of those moments, and knowing that I haven't felt that since then. That's what's making me cry now. Not that exactly, the person, I hope they live their best life, even if it's without me. It's not that. It's just, I miss that feeling, And so I just worked out also, if I look sweaty. Anyways, we stopped by Chick-fil-A, and I remember there's a guy that noticed me, took a picture with him, and we were waiting for our food, and I remember the way she looked at me in that Chick-fil-A, and she gave me this big hug. And I don't know why that specific moment stuck with me so much. But it was like everything was perfectly fine, normal, and I was just so like in love. I was so excited that like I was getting one step closer potentially to getting. I felt so close to that dream of like the house, the family, and starting all those things. So, go back that night. It's perfectly fine, normal. We watched church the next morning. We watched 2819, Pastor Philip. First time I ever watched him. And then we would go to different gyms because I didn't really like her gym much. So I went to a more bodybuilder focused gym, and I noticed something was up, and she FaceTimed me, and she called me, and she was saying she was coming over to talk to me. I just knew in my heart sunk, and she broke it to me, the news to me, and it really shook me. So that's why I went to Liberty, right? Anyways, so let me get back to where I was at. I kind of got off track. Went back, we were talking back and forth, hanging out for 2 weeks, and I was still trying to like beg for her back. Me saying, "Oh, it's not too far gone. We can, whatever that needs to be fixed can be fixed. We just got to give it to God." Again, there was like issues on both sides that could have been completely worked out, in my opinion. Nothing was too far gone, and I'm not going to say that I was perfect, and I'm not going to say that she was perfect in it. I'm not going to blame anybody, but I was willing to want to put in work to make it work, whatever the cost was. And she felt like it wasn't worth it. And one thing that kind of fucked me up, that I remember genuinely crying my heart out to her at one point, begging for her, and I told her, because it just didn't make sense as to why we were breaking up over the things that she was saying we were breaking up over. Didn't add up, and I told her, I was like, just be honest, just tell me. And there was one thing that she said, and I'll never forget this, and she mentioned something to me, I'm not going to like use word for word, along the lines of like that she didn't want to see like a life with someone like me. I don't like with, I guess, the social media life or whatever it might be. I know she didn't like that a lot of my past relationships were on the internet and whatnot. She was a fellow like influencer and whatnot as well, but she didn't like that, which I understand. I completely understand how that might upset someone. But it's just I documented my life the last 5 years. I've been in other relationships. It's just how it is. And when she's told me that, it broke me, because at the beginning it was like I knew that she knew what I did, like social media and all that. But like when it made me feel so like that shit hurt for sure. So I remember it felt like the person that I thought was my best friend, that knew me more than anyone ever in my entire life has known me, was like changing, like in front of my eyes. It was like I would tell her, I would say her name, and I'd be like, are you like a different person? It was like confusing me, and that's what was breaking my heart even more so than the actual breakup. It was like, yo, this person that like I thought I was gonna marry and like give my entire life to, or would have given my entire life for, was like literally changing in front of me, and that shit was like fucking me up. Sorry for cussing, like ripping me apart more than anything. And I remember the last time we really hung out, we went to a cigar lounge together. She didn't smoke cigars, but I did, and we were talking. I was trying to help her out. She was trying to get like YouTube stuff. The way that she kind of treated me, like the way she acted, it was like all the love. I could tell all the love was gone, like on her end. She didn't love me anymore, and that shit fucked me up and broke me. And I drove back that night, and completely just empty and broke. And for the last 2 weeks, I was trying to really give everything to God and trust that God was going to make it right. I had a few things come up that was actually crazy with between her and I in those 2 weeks, where I was like, this is definitely from God. This is going to work. I really thought it was. Like we somehow found each other at the same lake. Like she was going on a walk, and I just was in the parking lot on the phone with my friend, which I'll talk about later, because Barry honestly helped save my life. I'm not even going to lie. He doesn't even know it, I don't think. And I went back that night. Never did this in my life. I completely shut my phone off because I didn't want anyone to be able to call me. I pretty much had my mind made up. I felt like my entire world like fell apart completely. I felt like that dream I had, just that I thought I was so close to getting, was just ripped away. And I've been hurt multiple times in the past, and I've had issues with like relationships that have really messed me up. And I've had like abandonment issues since I was a little kid. So that shit really hit me hard. turned the phone off, and I basically was telling myself that I was gonna, do it that night. And I don't know how much detail I can go into. If I have to cut some of this up, I will. Then I got to a point, I sat on my table, and I set up my camera to record like a message that I want like my dad to see, my mom, and people close to me, and how I wanted like money distributed, why I was doing it. All this basically like a message, like a final goodbye. I started drinking a shit ton of whiskey to hope that maybe being drunk that I would do it. And I remember I ordered like a last meal. I like binge ate on like Domino's, some stupid shit. I was drunk and I was smoking in the place, and I was drunk, smoking cigarettes and stuff. I don't even smoke cigarettes. I do cigars, but I was like so like just drunk and out of it. And I remember like I was so fucked up, gone. And giving up on God even. I remember I watched porn that night, dude. And I did everything that I didn't give a fuck. I was ready to kill myself, ready to go out, and I was hoping that I would not wake up the next morning. Thankfully, I did. Still here, obviously. After that point, it kind of got a little bit easier. The fact that I woke up so much more aware the next day, I'm like, wow. I was like, Alex, what the fuck? Were you really about to off yourself over some girl? You know what I mean? So I started understanding that and, coming to my senses a bit. Still, obviously, completely hurt and cooked. And I was so mad at God. In fact, I absolutely... I don't want saying this now because I know God knows me, and I might as well say I hated God, dude. I hated it. And throughout the next month of me really trying to work on healing, still dealing with suicidal thoughts and negativity and whatnot, I did not want anything to do with God. I felt so wronged by him. I felt like I guess I deserved something. I don't know. I felt so betrayed because I thought that was a God-given relationship. Since the beginning, I thought it was so holy and God-given. It was like, if this wasn't true love, I don't know what is. That's the way I thought about it. Life was so black and white after we broke up, and I just found no joy in anything. And I'm not gonna lie, shout out Barry. Barry's he's funny. He was one of my original 15 Twitch viewers, and he became a really close friend of mine. And he was going through a breakup around that time. Actually, the girl I was with tried to help him through it as well. And about a month later, I was going through the breakup. So Barry came down. He was living in Jacksonville. He came to Orlando a lot, and him and I were kind of just being depressed as hell together. And it's a little bit better when you got someone to do it with. And I really do feel like Barry really helped save my life. I'm not even gonna lie. I don't think he even understands that, because I really was giving up on God, and we started crashing out. I completely started turning towards worldly things. I moved to Nashville. I went to different schools every weekend, partying. I drank so much alcohol. I'm not known for that. I drank so much. I was going to getting table. I wasn't getting out. People would just invite me to tables, drinking people just pouring tequila in my mouth, dude. I was getting fucked up, and I didn't do any hard drugs. I want people to know that. I just got super drunk off alcohol. I was crashing out, and I remember I went to the hospital in Nashville for it, and then I moved to Nashville on a whim. I just got a super expensive. I didn't give a fuck about money. Actually, before I moved, this is what I didn't care. I was trying to fill a void and find some ways to make myself feel better about myself, because I had no confidence. I had no nothing. So I put $320,000 cash down on a $405,000 Lamborghini STL that I bought. And shortly after that, I spent $160,000 or whatever on a twin turbo R8 cash. So I was spending my money like a dumbass, not caring, just because I was trying to fill a void. And dude, I don't even know how to explain it. I got in the gambling deal stuff. I was crashing out. I was drinking. I was doing shit that I shouldn't be doing. I got all these tattoos. I don't regret. I kind of like the tats. I'm not gonna say I regret them, but I did that. It was I don't know, dude. I became someone that I never thought I would become, and what I hate is that Caleb was urging me. Caleb kept trying to reach out to me, Drip King, and I didn't want nothing to do with him. I didn't want nothing to do with God, with anything related to that. I remember Caleb wanted me the first time he did the podcast with Cliff. It was it was 2 weeks after the breakup. Last minute, I had a flight and all. I canceled on him. I said, I can't do it, bro. I was so heartbroken I couldn't do it. So I missed out on the podcast with that. I remember George Janko yelled at me and everything because I was trying to. George was helping me a little bit through the breakup. yelling at me. He was like, "Why would you like that?" Saying that I was like in the sense I was like allowing the devil to win in that because I wasn't spreading the word. We had a second podcast that we were supposed to do recently with Cliff, and I also called out on that. Since then, I started coming to my senses about 2 months ago, realizing that what I was doing was stupid, and I just ended my lease in Nashville early and just moved there I moved out of nowhere. Moved back home to Maryland, back in with my dad. I've been here the last month, getting my head back on, and I sold all the cars, and I've been more committed to work and just my passion more so than I've ever been. But I've still been struggling at getting my relationship back with God the way it once was. Started meeting with my pastor a little bit more once I got back here, and I think I think what messed me up the most about that breakup was like it didn't need necessarily to happen. Like it came out of nowhere, and I just what I couldn't get closure for so long, right? So it was just like it's funny because like you might think like this guy has all the money in the world, all the fame in the world, whatever he might want, and all I wanted at that time was just that girl, right? And that shit broke my heart because I would do anything to be with her, and she didn't want anything to do with me. So that shit like tore me apart from the inside, and it made me the feelings I had. I hated God. I hated everything, and what I've learned now is in times, and this is what I recommend to y'all if you're going through something similar. Rather than praying for the person to come back, or even sometimes you might have the other effect where you're like pissed at them and you try to make yourself hate them or do things that get them mad. You ought to pray for them. And this is what really helped free me from this whole thing. In terms of the wanting her back when I was going through the breakup is praying for her, not for her. Does that make sense? When you lose someone that you want and you love, rather than praying to have them back, it's a selfish prayer. How we ought to pray for them is, God, I pray that you bless this person's life, even though they caused me all this harm and pain and it hurts. God, I pray that you would bless them. God, I pray that if it is not in your will for this person to be in my life, God, I pray that you would give them somebody who can love them to the best way that they are willing to receive that love. I pray that all the endeavors that they want to go into succeed and that you have your favor over them. And I pray that their family is extremely healthy and is loved and redeemed. So it's praying in a sense of you're praying for them the way out of love, regardless of your selfish intention with it. Obviously, in a sense, you might pray wanting them back, but you have to submit everything to God. God, that if you have to be at a point where you can say, like, God, if this person is not meant to be with me, and if you have another man for this girl, God, I submit that to you, and I pray that that man learns to love her so well that she could never, ever have to second guess that man loves her, right? So that's the way that I had to pray. And that's hard at the time because like all you can think your selfish human desires are flesh. And we just want them back, right? You think of all the memories you had together, and that shit eats you alive for sure. But there's a freeing aspect in giving it to God, and like rather than choosing like resentment or just remembering past things, it's if you truly love them, it's like you'd be okay with them living their life without you. If that makes them happier, if you truly do love them, you've got to just let them. If you love them, let them, right? So I think that's what helped me, and I want to include that in this because I feel like it could help some of you guys who are going through a breakup. And I understand. I'm sure the person was your entire world, and just trying to find my way again in the faith. I got really far out. My pastor says it's facts. I wrung out the spirit because I was sinning and doing everything so much, and I just gave up on God. And it's still been difficult since then in terms of like life has not been as like cool, as like happy. And what pisses me when I see my Snapchat memories pop up from a year ago, it pisses me off. Even when I just see a picture of myself like in the Charlotte crib, because I'm like, wow, you were so happy at that moment in life. And since then, it's been a struggle. It's like the way I would explain it is like everything's on like negative like 70% saturation. It's like viewing life from like a more black and white perspective, and not really knowing why I'm doing what I'm doing anymore. Like I stopped working